Hey there, Vermont. We're gonna have a little fun this morning. Here's why socialism works. We're gonna play this little video. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. Hello. Okay, so here's the latest and greatest. All right. Hey, apologize. I'm looking a little scruffy, not shaven. It's pretty dry up here during the winter climate change up here in the frozen tundra of Vermont. So long story short, we got a brand new pitch because feel the burn from the Bern, Bernie Sanders, the Marxist slash socialist slash communist slash Democrat slash progressive slash independent socialist, has a brand new book out. It's called 50 Shades of Communism. And with the new beauty queen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism, pitching the $93 trillion plan to destroy America, while pitching a $32.6 trillion Medicare for all plan. So, all right, long story short, good old Bernie Sanders did not have a celebration launch of his 2019 to 2020 Marxist slash socialist slash communist slash Democrat slash progressive socialist 2020 presidential campaign in his own home state of Vermont. And why is that? Well, because after getting burned by the Bern many times, especially in several failed real estate speculation projects, that good old trifecta of deflecta between Leahyism, Sanderism, and Welchism, as we launch into the 2019-2020 presidential election cycle, it is very, very interesting how the 50 Shades of Communism, the new power couple, feel the burn from the Bern, Bernie Sanders, with New York U.S. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism, they seem to be adjusting to capitalism rather well. So let's break this down. Hey there, Lonnie Duke. Hey, JT Dodge, how you doing? Hope it's decent weather up there in the frozen tundra of the Northeast Kingdom. So we're going to start crunching some numbers, have some future announcements coming down the pipeline, breaking down the 2019-2020 Democrat slash progressive socialist legislative agenda. So Vermont learned a very valuable lesson with the H57 S25 bill. After 46 plus years of complete toxic feminist indoctrination, they're unwilling to update the Leahy legacy of the Beach and Leahy case back in '72. And we all know that Patrick Leahy is the Vermont Democrat slash progressive socialist. He's one of the trifecta of deflecta, the EB5 champion scandal, brought to him or brought to Vermonters via his pitch for the the EB5 scandal up in the Northeast Kingdom. All those jobs promised, a biotech company that was never really going to get there, never even in the plan apparently, and just between the EB5 scandal and the Burlington College debacle, that was a negative $375 million result for those Vermont taxpayers, all those hardworking contractors up there in the Northeast Kingdom. And now there's a whole new pitch. You're going to love this pitch. It's on the New York's bestsellers list. 50 Shades of Communism by the new power New York couple. Feel the Bern from the Berns, Bernie Sanderism, teams up with U.S. or New York U.S. Congresswoman. She's a lot prettier than Bernie, a lot younger. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism, pitching the how we're going to fix America in 12 short years. The new climate change apocalypse prediction, estimation, projection. Building up the fear in our youth. I mean, we got the whole new 12-year plan to completely renewable energize the massive country of America. Now, let's get serious about this here because it's a $93 trillion makeover, promising big jobs, promising everybody gets to work, on top of the $32.6 trillion Medicare for All plan. And this new power couple is really just throwing out big numbers, really short timelines that are completely unsustainable, let alone they're basically undeliverable. Which is, right up Bernie Sanders' sleeve in his alley. One of the least successful former Burlington Socialist mayor, former Vermont U.S. congressman, now a third-term Vermont U.S. senator, pitching the $93 trillion makeover for America, the $32.6 trillion Medicare for All plan, because basically they don't even have a plan, because let's face it, they either seriously failed every class in project management, let alone every single cost analysis or breaking down what it's going to actually take to Green New Deal America. So we have the whole new carbon tax, climate change apocalypse 12-year plan. And, as we heard, there's a nice little video where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she is the boss. If you're unwilling to participate and provide a, let's just say, a realistic, common sense approach on how we're going to avoid the climate change apocalypse, how we're going to completely pummel every single one of those fossil fuel companies that have made billions upon trillions upon gazillions of dollars off of the hard-working backs of Americans, their medical plan. It's just not very well, it's not thought out very well at all. And that's basically typical of Bernie Sanders. He's just a, pie in the sky, utopian dreamer. And listen, I will say Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a lot prettier than Bernie. And she is jumping on that passionate bandwagon. Meanwhile, we have a 21st century example of Bernie Sanders' back-to-back socialist heroes down in Venezuela. A real-time 21st century collapse of a socialist dictatorship, or tag team dictatorship, of two of Bernie Sanders' socialist heroes, Nicolas, Maduro, and Hugo Chavez. So, I can certainly write this all out in Spanish. May take me a little while. I did study Spanish, high school, college. I could take the time to write this out in Russian. I'm a little rusty, might make a few errors. However, it's not that hard to figure out. I can do it in French, Canadian, home country, French in France. It's completely unsustainable. And listening to the decarbonization methods of Vermont, presentation, a $500 million tax scheme punishing all fossil fuels while banning natural gas pipelines, while banning natural gas companies. It's a little scary there, people, because I'm going to tell you something. I was off the coast of Vladivostok, Russia, when the Soviet Union collapsed in December of 1991. We were off the coast of China in 89 when Tiananmen Square went down. We saw how that was not a very democratic process. Required a lot of bullets, killed thousands of people up in Tiananmen Square in China. So, Vermont needs to really pay attention, because we have the new 2019-2020 Marxist / Socialist / Communist / Democrat Socialist / Progressive Socialist power couple in Feel the Burn, From the Burn, Bernie Sanders, pitching his Sanderism, teamed up with a new Latina beauty queen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism. And these numbers are pretty huge. And I realize a lot of people aren't used to hearing these very large numbers. But when you're talking a $93 trillion estimate, and that's exactly what it is. It's an estimation on what it's going to take to power America on 100% renewable energy, when they're not even telling you the amount of fossil fuels it's going to take to just power these projects. Pardon me. Met a really nice couple down in, well, online though. I'm not saying in person. They were part of some of these projects up in Vermont. The Ludlow project. And we had some fun kind of, tossing the numbers, how this is going to work. No one's telling you that it's going to take the size of 2 states, the size of California and the size of Texas, those 2 states alone. If you could cover every inch of California and the state of Texas with solar farms, it would take those 2 states to basically be covered with solar panels in order to generate. And I think that's that's an estimation, a projection, an assumption, because let's face it, the solar panel industry and some of the solar panels that are being installed up here in Vermont are not the most efficient. I've seen far better out in the deserts of California, New Mexico, Arizona. I must admit, I didn't have the opportunity to drive through Texas to see their new solar farms. But the whole, hey there, Gregory Thida, how you doing? The whole pitch of the $93 trillion makeover that the new 50 Shades of Communism power couple between Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they're pie in the sky utopian dreams. And I realize I'm going to be upsetting a lot of, Sanders fans when you've got individuals that are that indoctrinated by that long-winded 1.8% of written legislation during his 30-plus years down in the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate. That is a seriously low success rate, if not completely lazy, while also claiming he's the savior of the veterans. He's the savior of America by pitching the seriously bankrupting America with a $93 trillion estimation of a makeover, and pitching the Medicare for All $32.6 trillion plan. It sounds like a 50 Shades of Communism couple that really, they're not so democratic. I mean, it is kind of progressive thinking because it's a wicked long dream that they're throwing out there. Meanwhile, pitching fear to all of our children of the new climate change 12-year apocalypse coming soon if we don't start addressing carbon emissions. The only thing, though, many of these individuals have either completely failed in science because when you piece this together, and I had the, like I said, I read this Energy Department release, and they're basically covering every aspect of anything that could possibly produce electricity or power our country. And even in their preface, these are all assumptions, estimations, projections. And having a really nice conversation with some individuals that actually worked on some of these past projects up here in Vermont. Wow, you want to talk about a very eye-opening and actually, getting right down to the truth on what it's going to cost Vermont taxpayers that are jumping on the Green New Deal. Because let's face it, I mean, Bernie Sanders has been pitching his Sanderism, not so democratic, not very progressive socialist doctrine that has consistently failed across the planet. And I realize I'm probably going to upset a lot of hardcore Marxist, socialist, communist, socialist Democrats, Democrat socialists, socialist progressives, progressive socialists out there. But when your own third term reason for term limits doesn't hold a presidential launch in his own home state, there's something to be thinking about that, America, because I'm going to tell you. Hey there, John. Is it Marcotte? Hopefully I enunciated that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. So, this is the new 50 Shades of Communism. It's a new #1 New York bestseller down there in New York City. Coming to you by a power couple, a native-born New Yorker, transplant, Bernie Sanders, pitching Sanderism. He's now he just launched his 2019-2020 bid, his second chance. I mean, listen, he did extremely well destroying the state of Vermont. And I realize there's a lot of hardcore Bernie Sanders supporters out in the state of Vermont that just love him. I mean, when you're getting a tattoo of an older gentleman's, bald head with hair that's been brushed by a balloon in his glasses, I mean, let's face it, that's a cult. And he's got his fans out there, and he's raising money. He beat, hey there, Rick McMahon, how you doing? He beat Kamala Harris. She's a lawyer, California. We all know, can't really trust lawyers out there. I mean, she is younger than Bernie Sanders. I'll give her that. She's definitely cuter than Bernie Sanders as well. Boy, she's going around talking about how she's a pot-smoking Tupac listener. There's a little bit something wrong with that timeline there. So, long story short, we've got some announcements coming up. On March 23rd, we would like to see more Vermonters join the No Carbon Tax Vermont group. 9 to noon at the State House. We've done a lot of research. We've actually read through these decarbonization methods, presentations. And unlike these individuals, we actually have listened to many of the opposing Vermont residents that saw their property values decline drastically when they had a solar farm placed right next door in an open field next to their property. And we've already learned a lot about the industrial wind turbines up in the Northeast Kingdom, and, by the Seneca Project, the Coolidge Project. Learned a lot breaking everything down through this plan, and how in some states, and this is coming from a very good resource, where they've actually put up many of these industrial wind turbines, but yet they're not connected to the grid. What's that all about? That's paying up front all that money, all that labor, to install an industrial wind turbine that looks like it's spinning. It's slowly spinning, but it's not providing any energy into the grid. That sounds like a project that's not complete. Sounds pretty cool getting paid all that money up front, putting up this very expensive industrial wind turbine, and it's not providing any energy into the grid. Okay, so that may sound like a conspiracy theory to many people out there, but I think you need to do a little bit of homework. You certainly need to dive into the plan, and you certainly have to research where the, let's just say, the lobbyist money is coming from, because you're about to buy into another one of the Leahyism, Sanderism, Welchism, the trifecta of deflecta, renewable energy schemes that is not sustainable, especially in the present environment here in Vermont. Hi there, Christopher P. Thyler. How you doing? So, March 23rd, Montpelier State House, 9 to noon. And we even have a room this time. And we will be presenting some very serious breakdowns of the Green New Deal, the decarbonization methods of Vermont, the $120,000 consulting firm that did the research. And when you start looking into the Department of Energy's plan and breaking down how they plan on, let's just say, addressing the Green New Deal, dealing with the climate change apocalypse that's being pitched by the new power couple, the 50 Shades of Communist couple, the $93 trillion makeover, assumption, estimation, projection of the 100% renewable energy plan for America. I mean, that book alone says a lot. And I think if you're not paying attention to the news, what's going on down in Venezuela, that's a back-to-back socialist dictatorship failure between two leaders in Nicolas Maduro and Hugo Chavez. Venezuela was once one of the wealthiest countries in South America, is now in complete collapse. We're sending down humanitarian efforts, food that Nicolas Maduro is not allowing to come into his country. And why is that? Well, because good old Nicolas Maduro is figuring out how he can profiteer off of that humanitarian effort of bringing down that food to his own people in Venezuela that he is starving, that he is killing in the streets, that oppose his dictatorship. And there's already 50 countries on board that have turned their back on the present Nicolas Maduro dictatorship. And it's going to get worse down there. But if you're sick and tired of listening to complete, out-of-touch, outdated individuals that are still stuck in the 20th century trying to save their legacies, all right, that's your That's your prerogative. But I tell you what, we learned how good old Dianne Feinstein's not afraid to bully any female that doesn't vote her way. And Nancy Pelosi is no brainiac. That woman is seriously out of touch. When you're talking about a person that had the opportunity to meet John F. Kennedy back in the 60s, and she's still down in Congress as a U.S. Congresswoman. I mean, she's a multimillionaire. She lives behind some nice big walls, and she's one of the laziest individuals. I just, every time I listen to that woman even speak, knowing that I've lived out in California, the mass amount of homeless people that are living on these bike paths in tent cities. Come on, wake up. Listen, socialism has failed. It's failed in large-scale companies. It's failed in, not companies, but countries. Whenever you're talking about taking a paid-in plan, nationalizing it, that is socialism, that is communism, that is Marxism, that is Leon Trotskyism, Bernie Sanderism, and the new Latina beauty queen Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism. She seems to be adjusting to capitalism rather nicely down there in Washington, D.C. Okay, she's got a great pad. I guess she's got one of the most expensive ones. Good taste there, Alexandria. And listen, she's certainly updating her fashion. And we're learning from several of the newly elected representatives from other states just how to waste money, never get anything done. And this whole resist campaign is nothing but costing American taxpayers and any taxpayer across America more money, delaying fixing stuff that was already agreed on in a past administration, willing to fund $46 billion, screaming to the high heaven that you're separating children from their parents that are not even Americans, and yet you're willing to completely destroy the American family, keeping good mom and dads away from their kids. Come on. It's just getting old. And that H57 S25 abortion rights bill, unrestricted, no changes whatsoever, after 46 plus years of new medical innovations, new medications, safer medications, between, prophylactics, the medications, the advancement in medical procedures that are less invasive, certainly, come on. We need some fresh blood down there. This is getting old. It's as old as many of these representatives down there that are still stuck down in the 20th century pitching a failed ideology that has failed across the planet. You're witnessing it in real time, 2019, the complete collapse of Venezuela. POTUS 45 has finally started talks with North Korea. He's over in Vietnam right now discussing the next phase of North Korea's, future plan. They can continue to be a nuclear power, threatening everybody by launching, little rockets across the Sea of Japan. Their people starving. Rather than jumping on board to the 21st century, South Korea has proven that, they've outpopulated North Korea. They're far wealthier. They're producing products in a global economic system, and yet we still have individuals that just will, I mean, they are as pig-headed, stubborn, and they're pitching a failed socialist, Marxist, communist. I'm going to mix it all up just because I'm sure it's upsetting somebody out there. Socialist, Democrat, Democrat, Socialist, Socialist, Progressive, Progressive, Socialist. I don't care where you put the word socialist. It fails. You run out of money. This new climate change apocalypse pitch, this 12-year plan to basically destroy America, is being pitched by, I don't know, how many Democrat/progressive socialists have announced exploratory committees? I mean, we've got, and I apologize if I mess up on some of their names. There's so many of them now. We've got Mr. Castro. He's launched for president. We've got Kamala Harris from California. Feel the burn from Vermont, and Vermont's already felt that gentleman's burn pretty bad. We've got I'm sure he's raised some money, and I got another interrupting phone call. It's gonna probably. It's nice when you get to decline a call. It's never-ending solicitation, and let's face it, it gets old too. As much as you register your numbers as private, it seems no one listens, and they all, have something to pitch. And I'm not against capitalism. I'm certainly not against building, successful business models. I am just sick and tired of the state of Vermont jumping onto these boondoggles and promising jobs, promising these kids that are coming out of college with these climate change degrees that you're going to be employed in the new $93 trillion America makeover. That new climate change apocalypse is coming in 12 short years, just to reach 75% renewable energy by 2030 in the state of Vermont, where they're already installing not so efficient solar panels. It's more the lower scale of solar panels. And the industrial wind turbines, an estimated 200 miles of green mountain ridgeline, where 1 square acre for each industrial wind turbine, on top of 30,000 acres worth of solar farms. I don't know. $500 million tax scheme on all fossil fuels while you're banning natural gas pipelines down in good old Vermont. It seems like there's a complete confused mixed mess of momos down in the Vermont House and the Vermont Senate that have failed science, they've failed technology, they're certainly not the best engineers, they are horrible at math, and if they consider themselves lawyers or lawmakers, I would request money back, because someone is giving them a seriously horrible education just so they can grandstand, waste time, and not get anything done. That's actually what the people want in the state of Vermont. All right, so the new New York bestseller, 50 Shades of Communism, is out with a new power couple of Feel the Burn from the Bern, Bernie Sanders. His new Latina beauty queen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is jumping on that Green New Deal. The new climate change apocalypse 12-year plan to destroy America. He's done a great job destroying Vermont, and I really hope that Americans start waking up, because this stuff is getting old. It's not that hard to crunch these numbers, and these people they seriously have failed when it comes to project management skills, let alone anything to do with engineering, and they're nothing but complete and utter long-winded. Some of them are lawyers. I don't know. Is Bernie Sanders a lawyer? I don't even think he's a. If he's a lawyer, only 1.8% success rate. That's pretty sad. And Vermont should certainly wake up because, man, that dude is not that smart. It just, you know what? And I apologize, Bernie, if that offends you, but your plans stink. They completely are not thought out. They're utopian, pie-in-the-sky dreams that if you're paying staffers for this kind of, complete and utter crap, I think you're getting ripped off as well. So, I mean, you're certainly not hiring the right engineers, scientists, let alone people that can crunch numbers, or successful engineers that have actually delivered multi-million-dollar projects that have actually generated a positive multi-billion-dollar return for Americans. So anyway, stay tuned. Join us March 23rd, 2019, Vermont State House, the No Carbon Tax Vermont group. A long list of successful professionals that have actually worked on multi-million-dollar projects. Many of them that have been very successful, delivering under budget, successful projects that have actually generated a positive return for the investment. Please avoid these 50 Shades of Gray communism types, because I'll tell you what, you are getting set up for the next biggest taxpayer bailout Ponzi scheme that will break everybody's wallet. And the 21st century has a lot of awesome stuff coming. Vermont's digital infrastructure is not even in place. They're promising fiber optics. That's been a never-ending project that they can't seem to deliver. And you've got to have the infrastructure in place if you're going to support these Green New Deal renewable energy projects. And when you're getting shoddy equipment already, you're not getting the most efficient solar panels in a not-so-sunny region up in New England, it's not too hard to figure out. I mean, join us, please. Start asking some questions. And we need more intelligent individuals running for public office. I mean, I really don't want to have to beg, but if I have to, I mean, if we haven't shown you enough of these boondoggles, and if as a registered resident of Vermont, a voter, I mean, how many taxpayer bailout Ponzi schemes does it take for you to wake up and stop electing these momos? I mean, seriously, that's a very low success rate. That's a lot of money, or a lot of negative, unreturned money, meaning you're in the hole. Wake up, Vermont. Wake up, America. Feel the burn from the burn. The new 50 Shades of Communism is coming your way. It's a New York bestseller. And boy, I gotta tell you what, that $93 trillion plan to destroy America is... There's a lot of folks drinking that Kool-Aid on that side of the political spectrum. We got potty mouth Tony Perez out there. He's all excited because there's going to be 40-something candidates begging, pleading for your donations, your hard-earned money, so that they can all, pitch a plan that is completely unsustainable. It's not even well thought out, and the infrastructure is not even there. And, this taxpayer bailout Ponzi scheme stuff is getting old, and they're beating up on fossil fuels, and the amount of fossil fuels it's going to require just to put some of these projects in place should wake you up. So if you haven't seen enough of the Yellow Vest protest over in France destroying property, well, there's a few folks that are predicting another American Civil War. I certainly don't think it's going to have to go that far, there are some very smart, intelligent individuals out there that are trying to. It doesn't take too long to actually crunch the numbers, put together the projections, these estimations, and it's completely unsustainable, especially for the small state of Vermont. I mean, we're one of the most taxed states as it is, and as much as the state of Vermont says that they want to lead, I'm not following these momos. These folks have failed science. They've certainly failed technology. Their engineering stinks, and their math is completely messed up. So that's February 26, 2019 assessment of the Green New Deal, the climate change apocalypse coming your way, the complete and utter con artist numbers that they're throwing in these estimations, projections, and many of them probably haven't even managed a multi-million-dollar project, let alone these are probably like that 93 trillion is probably a small ball estimate, because I don't know, $93 trillion is a lot of money. So isn't 32.6 trillion. So just adding those two up for those two big old plans, let's just take a little look. 93, and I'm just going to do it the old school way, because I really cannot stand watching Common Core. So 32.6. Wow. $125.6 trillion plan. I'm gonna have to just see what the whole. I'm gonna have a little fun with that later. But anyways, stay tuned. Please join us at the State of Vermont, the State House, on March 23rd, 2019, 9 to noon. We've got some really good speakers, some folks that have actually managed projects, and we're gonna, help Vermonters really understand what's being pitched at them here in the state of Vermont by the trifecta of deflecta and the communist, socialist, progressive, Democrat, socialist, socialist progressives. One of the only supermajorities to consistently fail not only Vermonters in the state of Vermont, but now they're trying to fail across the country. So stay tuned. Have a great day.